All right, we just finished up scale. We're now on to trim. I'm going to make a few modifications here. I'm going to erase what I've got so far. And then I'm just going to draw some lines. A couple of random, I'm going to cross these over. Make a few of them nice and straight. I'll pan this way a little. REC, and I'm going to create a rectangle, and that rectangle is going to be taller than it is wide, and it's going to go right here. I'm going to use my copy command, and I'm going to put another one right here. Okay. Now, trim command is pretty easy. All it does is it eliminates the portion of the item that you click on and brings it back to a specified object that is going to cut it. And illustrate the description of it is kind of pale, but it'll make sense as I actually walk through this. So here's trim. Trim's another object to meet the edges of other objects. Okay, so TR at the command prompt if you're not going to use the icon. You'll notice I spend a lot of time telling you about the shortcuts and keying things in at the keyboard. The reason is, if you learn how to key things in on the keyboard, that your eyes don't change focus. You're focusing on the tasks and the things that you have right here. You don't have to stop doing what you're doing, change the focus of your eyes to go all the way up here, and then come all the way back to where you were before. You can key it right into the command prompt, and you're continuing to work. It can save you a little bit of time over the course of an entire day. So you notice here it says select objects or select all. I'll get to select all in just a moment. Select objects. This is the object that you're actually cutting with. Okay. Now there's only a few things here that are intersecting one another. So I'm going to select this line as an item that I'm cutting with. So select that object, and I'm done selecting that object, so that I'm done selecting the elements I'm cutting with. And I will push return. Select the item, select the object to trim. So I'm going to click on the item that I want to discard. So you can see I've got that little red X next to my cursor. As I mouse over it, that's my live preview. AutoCAD is telling me I'm going to get rid of this item until it crosses that line, and it will eliminate the side that I click on. So click my way through, cut my way through, cut my way through. So I'm going to undo that, Control Z. I'm going to come back, I'm going to use my stretch command. As for stretch, I'm going to grab all these items and I'm going to pull them all the way across like this, which I probably should have done to begin with. Let me bring that up a little closer. Once again, TR for trim. What happens if I want to get rid of all the items on the inside here? I want to get rid of every item or trim out every line that crosses through this rectangle. Well, I can select a rectangle as my cutting object. So left click, I'm done selecting my cutting objects, I'll push return. And instead of clicking on these 5 lines individually, you know it says shift select and select object to trim and all that? Well, I can hold, just like creating a crossing lasso, if I hold down my mouse button and just move right through and let go, they're all trimmed just like that in one shot. Turns out to be very, very helpful. Push return, and I'm going to undo that by pressing Control Z. I want to go into one more option here. TR at the command prompt, press return. Notice how it says in brackets, or select all. I haven't selected any objects yet. However, if I push return, or if I hit the space bar at this point, every object will cut every other object. And it can be a pretty handy way of doing things, but you can also get lost in a hurry. I'll give you an example of what this looks like, both with, I'll just show you. So I'm just going to push return. All objects can cut all other objects, any intersection. So I can click there, and I can click here, and I can click my way through. Now what can't be clipped, you notice how I've got that little universal no symbol right there. There is nothing that's crossing this object that can be used to cut it with. It's just standing all by itself. I can still come back and use that crossing to get rid of all the objects, but you notice how there's a piece that was sort of left behind. I don't know if it's a purpose, I don't know if it's an accident. And there we go. Now, I'm going to undo that. I can either use Control Z or I can type U at the command prompt to push return, bring all that stuff back. I'm going to use my trim command, except this time I'm only going to select these two rectangles as my cutting elements. I'm done selecting my objects, I'll press return. Now you notice that a polyline can cut itself because technically there's more than one line segment. So if I select on this long segment, it means that that segment, this short segment, and that short segment are cutting out this long segment here. That's how that works. But let's say I'm going to cut through here, and through here, and through here. Oops, I didn't mean to cut that one. So how do I get it back? Well, if you notice, it says right here, select object to shim or shift select to extend. Well, if I hold down my shift key and of course it's going to do that. It's because I'm doing this in a virtual environment. Some of my options aren't as, they're not working as well as I would like. That's unfortunate. Yeah. It's not giving me the pretty option to do that. I'm going to have to find another way to make this happen. I'm a bit stumped. Okay, it's not showing any different, but it's still acting different. So hold down your shift key, and your cutting edge becomes an edge that it can extend towards. Let me run that by that again. I'm going to cut all these sections out. You notice I'm still in the middle. These cutting objects are still highlighted. I haven't exited out of the trim command yet. Delete all these, or cut all these. Hold down my shift key and extend, extend, extend my way through. And just to show you something different, I'm going to show you how this works. I can extend to one side of the line, and I can extend it further and out. And I can even, it's kind of hard to tell, but you see how that extend is highlighted to the other side of the rectangle? But now suddenly I can't extend anymore because there's no more objects to extend towards in that direction. I can even, with my shift key held down, use my crossing to extend as well. So that's trim and extend all in one command like that. It can be pretty handy. And you'll notice that I have lines that are overlapping now because I extended this line first to this end of the rectangle and then extended it through. So I'm just going to pull him back. There we go. And to show you its opposite, I'm going to move these apart. You notice there's a drop down, trim, and extend. Now we've already seen how they extend, how when you shift click during a trim command, it works as an extend. This is just the exact opposite of that. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select the object that I'm extending towards. So I'm going to click on this rectangle. I'm done selecting the objects I'm extending to, so I'll push return or hit the space bar. And now I can click on the objects that I am extending towards. Also, I can use my crossing, and you see how I am extending these objects to the other side of this similar closed item. So undo that. EX for extend. This is the object that I'm extending towards. Push return as I'm done. And I can extend my way through there. Just like that. Now, just as with the extend or with the trim command, EX, at this point you can see my command line says select objects or select all. That means all objects will extend towards all other objects as long as their paths will intersect. And just to show how that works, I'm going to get another object here. Make sure we have a gap to work with. And I'm going to trim the middle of this out. Now I'll trim the middle of that out because we're focusing on the extend command. Extend, EX at the command prompt, push return. All objects will extend towards all other objects as long as they will naturally intersect. For example, you can extend that way, and you can extend out that way. If I did not want to extend this, or actually let's bring him down to there. If I did not want to extend, if I clicked on something one time too many, if I shift click on that object, it's now functioning, the extend tool now works as the trim command. So I can trim my way back. And I can extend using a crossing window, really speed things up. And then I can shift click and I can trim all that out. But you notice, since all objects are trimming all other objects, it doesn't always give the clean results that we want to. But I can still extend and extend. I can come back, I can hold my shift key down and trim. Now I can't trim these pieces out, but if I zoom in if I wanted to, I can hold my shift key down and I can trim that little piece right there. Not that it would make a whole lot of difference at this scale. Only objects that are crossing one another can be trimmed. The end of this circle can't be extended towards anything because there's nothing to extend it towards. However, if I draw another rectangle, like this, use my extend command, extend all, so all my objects can act as boundaries to extend towards, I can now come back and extend my way all the way around. And I can even, see, circles won't let, or an arc won't let you extend to close it, unfortunately. I'm done, push trim, select all objects. We'll just cut our way through all this. I can do that. And it's interesting, my trim command won't let me use this when it's intersected right there. Oh, it's because that's a line and that's a line. That's why it wasn't working. All right. That's the basics of the trim and extend commands.